What's up, fellow gamers and Diablo 4 enjoyers? Let's talk about the recent dev talk. And today we got a small taste, or yesterday, depending on when you see this video, we got a small taste of Season 3 of Diablo 4. It's called Season of the Construct. And when you hear that, you're like, okay, what's a construct, right? But the reality is we're getting the construct, right? We're going to fight some constructs and we get our own construct, which is going to be our little sidekick, our little minion. But the interesting part about this minion is how it can be customized, right? So we get a construct, we get new content called vaults, and we get new world events called arcane trimmers, right? That's what's new to the game. But I'm going to start with the construct because to me, this is the most intriguing part. And this is what really has me looking forward to Season 4's itemization changes. So the construct can have 2 skills. And what decides these skills is called governing stones, right? So there's 12 governing stones in the game. At least that's what they said so far. And you can slot 2 of them into your construct. They will grant them skills. These skills can be melee, range, or utility, right? So, range damage, melee damage, heals, maybe some buffs, whatever you need to improve your character, right? To support these governing stones and support these skills, you get tuning stones. Now, each skill, you can slot 3 tuning stones to modify it, right? To customize it. So you see, or maybe you can see where they're going with this, right? It almost reminds you of how other ARPGs operate, where you have a skill and then you have these additional modifiers to change how the skill functions, right? So now you can make a build more liking to your style of play, right? And that's what I'm excited for, because this is what Diablo 4 skills needs, right? Our core skills, our basic skills. We need to be able to customize it, right? That's what makes the game feel a little bland and the itemization feels boring, is because we can't truly customize them. There's some cool aspects out there and there's some cool uniques that do change how they function, but it's limited, right? If they incorporate this construct system into our skills, Season 4 is going to be dope, right? And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm pleading the devs to do. Take this system, put it into our basic and core skills, maybe even sprinkle into some other skills, and maybe some ultimates, and let's get the ball rolling, right? So that's the constructs, right? Tuning stones support your governing stones, which are your skills that your construct can perform. Next, let's talk about the vaults, right? So the vaults are these new dungeons. And there's nightmare versions, normal versions, right? The caveat to these dungeons are there will be new hazard attacks and traps that randomly occur within these dungeons. And that's what you have to try to avoid while you're still fighting mobs, right? So you have traps, and they showed fire traps. They showed, arrows shooting at you from random areas. You guys play the ARP genre. You kind of have an idea for what this is. And it should be exciting. It should be fun, right? It gives you a new wrinkle. The one thing Diablo 4's dungeons have been lacking is density. Maybe this will make up for that lack of density. Maybe not. But I like the wrinkle. I like the addition. It sounds like it could be cool, right? So as you work your way through these dungeons, what do you have to look forward to? Well, they did buff the dungeon chests, right? So the normal chests where you can get gold and things like that, they buffed those numbers. So you're going to get more gold. You're going to get better loot from the chest. It's probably not going to be the greatest loot, but it's going to be better than what you would get from normal dungeons or even normal nightmare dungeons, right? And I say normal nightmare dungeons because they're not the vault nightmare dungeons, right? So just that's why I use that wording there. So as you continue to progress through these vaults, you may come across what they call Zoltan statues, right? And these statues allow you to give a resource called pearls, right? And you give these pearls to get a buff, which is called Zoltan warding. And this buff allows you to get additional rewards at the end of the dungeon. So you get a normal standard chest for completing a dungeon, and there's a secondary chest that you can get only if you have the buff, right? So again, give a pearl to a statue, you get 3 stacks of the buff. Now, why is it a stacking buff? Because as you take damage from the hazard attacks or from the traps, you lose your stacks. If you run out of stacks and complete the dungeon, guess what? You can't open that additional reward chest. So obviously you want more loot, you want better rewards. You got to maintain your stacks as you complete these vaults. So the next question is, how do you get the pearls? And that leads us to the open world content, new content that is called Arcane Tremors. And the way they describe this is as construct incursions or construct invasions, right? So remember, Malphus is the big bad this season, right? I'm not a big lore guy, but the story mode wasn't bad. So this Malphus guy is the big bad. He's taking control of the vaults underneath Kyrgyzstan, and within those vaults, he's taking control of the constructs, and now the constructs are coming out into the open world, right? And that's what these incursions, these invasions are. So you'll see these marked on your map, and you'll go complete them. And as you complete them, you'll collect cores, and you use these cores and nearby braziers to summon heralds of Malphus, which are mini bosses, right? And the same mini bosses we fight in dungeons all the time. They drop the pearls. So they'll give you, your normal gear rewards, and they'll also give you these pearls that you will use in a dungeon. So they did speak, when I say they, I mean the devs, they did talk about how they wanted to incorporate a gameplay loop where you're not just doing one activity, like how Season of the Blood, you just farmed those vampire hell ties. That's all you did. Well, now they want you to do these world activities, right? And they also want you to do these vaults. And they work in conjunction with each other, right? You can do the vaults without the pearls, but you won't get the bonus loot. So, you could play it how you want to play it. If you want to grind and get the bonus loot, you're going to grind out these world activities, get the pearls, use the pearls on the statues, boom. Now you got to navigate the vault. Don't forget that. Avoid the hazard, avoid the trap, so you can keep your Zoltan warning buff. That way you can claim that extra loot at the end. So I think, again, cool stuff. Season 2 was a huge improvement over season 1. So I'm expecting season 3 to be a huge improvement over season 2. And I can see the game getting to that state that we all wanted it to be at from the beginning, right? And we didn't get what we wanted, but you see the improvement. And I do say salute and shout out to the devs for not just, they didn't give up. They're not phoning it in. They're trying to make the game better. They're trying to listen to feedback, and they're trying to implement things to make the game better. But devs, if you hear this, that construct system, the governing stones, tuning stones, put that in the gear. Make sure that's part of Season 4 itemization changes, and #D4good will start the trend, right? So we talked about vaults, we talked about the construct, and we talked about the arcane tremors, right? So what else do they always put in these seasons? The season journey, right? Which is the battle pass. And they did hear some feedback that people didn't like or weren't actually doing, let's say, the PvP objectives in the battle pass, right? And let's be honest, PvP is not really a big thing in D4. I just think the balancing, I just don't think the game is properly designed for PvP. It's something that, again, could come down later in the road if they improve some of the gameplay loop, customize the builds a little bit better, make it more balanced. PvP could be a thing, but right now it's not. So there's no reason to really have these objectives. I don't know if they removed all of them. They did say they removed some of the PvP requirements and objectives to progress through the battle pass tiers, but it's a good thing, right? Because again, no one was really doing PvP. I only did it just to collect my seeds of hatred so that I could complete the objectives, right? Just so I could 100% the battle pass. They did buff the rewards in the battle pass, which is good, right? Because we used to get some garbage, right? Like sacred gear, regular legendaries. I mean, come on. If we want ancestral gear, right? That's the end game gear is ancestral gear. Give us that. And according to them, they did, but with a caveat to it. It's 925, right? So it's max item power gear. And that's huge because right now, the only way you can get that is by Duriel and world bosses. So this gives us an added way to get some more gear. Obviously, once you complete the battle pass, it's over. But still, as you're leveling and completing the battle pass, it is nice to get some max power because you might not be ready to take on world bosses or Duriel by the time you complete the battle pass, right? So there you go. It gives you a little jump start, right? A head start into that harder content. What else did they do? They, premium cosmetics in this game, they're all right? Some of them are cool, right? Some classes do get some cool stuff. But for the most part, this is definitely an opinion thing. So if you like the skins, you like the cosmetics, they'll have some free ones that's included in the battle pass, and then they always got the ones in the store that you can purchase, right? They're also fixing the seasonal blessings, and that actually looks like a pretty good change. It looks like you can get some tuning stones. There's a couple good, I would say, buffs to the season blessings, which is it's an underrated tool because I feel like they've still been trying to get that to an acceptable level, and this might be the first season where we see it at that. And you guys can see from the graphic that it does look pretty impressive. The boss ladder is still there, right? So you still fight, those bosses in Uber Duriel for your Uber uniques, and you still fight the other bosses to get your other uniques, right? That's still part of the game. That's not going anywhere. That's cool. It's a little bit repetitive, but that's cool. Perhaps this new season mechanic, which is the vaults and the arcane tremors, and finding your governing stones and finding your tuning stones will give you something else to do, and on top of your hell ties, which is a favorite of most people, your world tree events, and of course world bosses. So I think it looks good. I think the game is still on an incline, right? It's still getting better with every season, with every update. It gets better. They also talked about some balance changes. I'll save that for another video because I don't want these videos to go on for too long. I just want to give you guys the crux of what's truly coming this season. And I would say the biggest thing that's coming this season, not at launch, is leaderboards and the gauntlet content, or the gauntlet dungeon. That is what you do to score points for the leaderboards. And I'm going to also do a separate video on that. So look out for those two videos, one for the balance changes and one for the gauntlets. I might save the balance change video because they are going to be releasing the patch note soon, which is going to be a full in-depth of the balance changes. So I might wait for that and just cover that. But that's it for now. I mean, tell me what you guys think. Are you returning to D4 for season 3? Are you a just hardcore D4 player and you just play it every day? You don't even care whether it's in season or out of season. You just playing D4. Leave your comments below. Are you excited also about D4 and season 3 and season 4? Right, this itemization. Are you excited about the construct change, about the construct mechanic as I am? If they can actually implement that into our skills, I mean, the sky's the limit. And I think itemization goes through the roof. And I think the game gets infinitely better. And customization gets infinitely better. But again, that's some copium. But I think they only did this as a small test to see how they can properly incorporate that system into our skills. So I think this is just a test for what's coming in the itemization changes in season 4. But again, leave your comments below. Tell me what you guys think. Leave your favorite emoji if you just want to. If you don't want to leave, comments, emojis, click the notification bell, subscribe so you can get more content from me. And as always, happy gaming. Take care. Peace.